Computer, yes. Okay, welcome to this webinar on Me in Mind, where we're going to explore seeing through the illusion of life, I suppose, of this reality that we're in. This is something. Well, basically, Jill Whalen's going to be our guest host for today, and she's going to be talking about this inquiry that I don't even know, that's not even an inquiry. I don't think you even think it's a self-inquiry, because that's probably not the right term. An exploration of having less of me, more mind, which Jill might have to sort of say what she means by more mind, but we'll let Jill do all of that. I'll just say who I am for the purposes of anyone listening who doesn't know who I am. I'm Sara Sanderson, and I call myself a liberation coach, which basically means I support people to explore what and who they are and how this incredible human experience works. And I run a Facebook group called Tea and Insights that basically is an exploration of just that. And I love exploring this for myself, and I love being able to do that with other people as well. So, okay, but that's enough about me. It's about Jill today, and and this exploration that she's going to take us on. Also, at the end, Jill is going to invite you to join her in this exploration. So there'll be some time at the end where she'll give more details about how you can do just that. So, Jill, lead us in, and anytime you want to a question from me or the participants, then just say. And what I'll do as facilitator is I'll keep an eye on the chat box. If people want to type any questions in there, then I'll keep an eye on that chat box. And if you want to actually speak directly to Jill with your question, then I think you can raise your hand, which is somewhere. If you're not sure how to do it, then just type in the chat box, I want to ask a question, and I'll make sure that we unmute you so you can do that. Okay, Jill, over to you.
Thank you for hosting this. This should be fun. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, but it should be a fun exploration. As you mentioned, this has been on my mind, and I'm going to be running a program in January about this. So this is kind of like an intro and helpful to me to try and speak about this stuff, because it's I don't even have my head wrapped around it, and that's why I want to explore it, because it's not like I know much about this. The idea is to have less of me, less of ourself. We have this self image of ourself, this me, this I, and what brought this on for me was I don't even know how I stumbled upon a guy named Tony Parsons, who's from the UK, on YouTube, and was listening to some of his stuff, and I was like, my mind was just getting blown by what he was saying, because according to him, he's pretty much has no me anymore, but yet is still functioning in the world as a regular human being. Things still happen to him, to I don't know, you want to say his character, or it gets confusing, but he, as he says it, it's just happening. So let me talk about what he says as I understand it. And I don't normally like to talk about what other people, I like to talk about what I've seen for myself. But the only way to describe this is to say it how he does, because I get it at an intellectual level right now, and I'm starting to I don't know if I'm starting to anything. But anyway, what he says is that we're all when we're born as babies, we have no sense of self, which I think psychologists and scientists pretty much corroborate. And at a certain age, we start to get this sense of self, and then it's corroborated by people around us, our parents, and and everyone's. I remember when my kids were little, like, you're so proud when they realize sort of who they are and they know their name, and they, and it's like, yay. But in a way, we should almost be cultivating them to keep that non-sense of self, perhaps, I don't know. Anyway, Tony says that what that is he says everything is just energy. So just the real world is just energy. That's everything. And when we get this sense of self, apparently there's this, it's a contracted energy inside of the person, or I don't know, I don't know how to describe it, but that's how he puts it. And so that's what causes separation. So we start out, the energy is oneness. Everything is just one energy, one infinite energy that can't go away, that has no motivation, it has no desire to do stuff, no right or wrong, it's not trying to make the world a better place. It's just energy, just plain old neutral energy. And when it takes this contracted form, it gives us the sense of self. This is how he puts it. I've never been able to really come to grips with the whole oneness thing, like that we're all the same. I've not seen the world as one, like you hear some people have these experiences where they're just walking. And this is what Tony said. He had this experience when he was like 19, that he was just walking in a park and suddenly everything just merged or whatever, and he saw the oneness of everything. It wasn't until later, I guess, when I guess that stayed with him for a while, but then the sense of self comes back, which, I think we've all had instances of that. I've had that. I've had a few instances of the living in that unconditional love, which is basically the same thing as the oneness. If you don't have that sense of self or that sense of separation, then all that's left is unconditional love. And I've had that come to me before, and it's interesting because it's usually at the worst of times, like for me, when I'm disgusted with somebody or the world or whatever, suddenly it's like boom, I get hit with this oh my God thing where I still, everything looks the same, but I feel total unconditional love, where I see that, all the personal self stuff doesn't matter, like that it doesn't matter what anybody does in this world or says or anything, because it's not real. Like, I guess that's, you see that, and yet at the same time, you still see the world. And I think this is what Tony's trying to say, is that nothing changes. Everything changes because you understand or whatever, something differently. And yet the world is still as it is. And that's the joke on us. Like with people searching for enlightenment, that it's some kind of big thing, when it's actually apparently nothing other than, I don't know, a switch in perspective or something, where you see that, where you just see that this is just, I don't know, you see through the dream, I guess. To me, the important thing, I think, in all of this, and what's been helpful to me just in general in life, is really seeing that, or believing, at least I guess I don't see it, but believing that this reality that we think is a reality isn't really a reality, is like a dream. You could call it a dream or an illusion or whatever, and that, it just it helps me travel lighter, be take more chances, things like that. So that's the reason, I guess, for the exploration. It would be cool, I think, to see, just to see if I could see the oneness better, or to be able to see things more unconditionally, because it's judgment, right? Our self is really the thing. The me is the one just making judgments all the time. Snap judgments. As soon as we see somebody, we put them in a box, we label them, and we put them in a box. And I guess in this life, there's value to that. It's helpful in terms of navigating or we think it's helpful. But I think our evolutionary stuff has gotten away from us, where so much of what we do is like survival instincts. It's all based on evolutionary stuff to survive in the world, maybe from cavemen days or who knows what. And it's not as helpful in this world. We're all like trying to protect ourselves from the lions, and the lion is our husband, or our workmates, or whatever. But it's all this, like, it's just our sense of self being scared of dying, really. And so I guess that's a part of this too, is to see that, I mean, some of the people who talk about this say that death is nothing, no different. It's just that our body's gone. There's another woman I like to listen to named Unmani, Unmani, and she said once, I loved it. She said, "We are." How did she put it? We are death. We are death living this life, something like that, which is like, what? But it's really interesting, because if you see that you're already dead, let's say, like there is no life, that means, then that fear of dying, which is what's causing all our fear, all the little stupid fears of people saying mean stuff to us and us feeling victimized by whatever, is that fear of death, or even if it's just death of the self. And the self doesn't want to hear all this stuff because it doesn't want to die. So I don't know, that's sort of an introduction. I don't know if any of that made any sense or has confused you more. Were there some questions or something? I saw some things popping up on the screen.
Yeah, so Julie has asked, well, she's made the comment when you were talking about this fear of dying. She's saying that it's that more being scared of pain and humiliation than dying. So my for me, my question for Julie would be, but what would happen if you were humiliated, if you did feel pain? Because I'm wondering whether at some point it would still end up being the fear of death at the end of that. I don't know if Julie, would you like to come on and speak directly to Jill? If you do, you can unmute yourself in the bottom left corner, but if not, that's okay. We'll just see if Julie pops on.
Yeah, hi.
Hi,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. I think that possibly if we're talking about death as a final thing, or I've got the wrong end of the stick, that's possibly quite a peaceful thing at the end. I don't feel the fear of that. It is more pain and suffering that before the death that's more scary to me. But I've probably come on and not got the gist of what we're talking about.
No, I mean, that makes sense. Definitely. If it's physical pain for sure. But where you said humiliation in your
Well,
question?
I live in the UK, and our health service is not the best. Probably at times it is, but there's a desperate shortage of beds, and the care's not what it used to be. So, it's quite a scary thought. The thought of that scares me. Yeah, it does. That actually you could feel the humiliation of being in a corridor, or not being cared for, or people who actually don't care for you around you.
Yeah, and that is scary to the self. And so apparently my understanding, and again, this is just intellectual at this point, is that none of this is going to stop any bad things from happening to us. Any of that you said could happen. Things will happen to us. People will die. We will die. We could get sick. All kinds of things will happen. But apparently, what's possible if you have no sense of self is that it's just happening and it's just happening. But and I guess you still feel it all as well, but it's not happening to someone because there's no someone there. Now, this is where it gets really deep. But I mean, I've experienced that to a certain extent as well. But then I don't know if it's just disengaging, or or if it's really what this is all about. But I've had where when bad stuff's happening, where it's just happening, and then if there's no like self at the moment to give it any kind of meaning. This is what Tony says, that eventually, as things happen and there's no one there giving it meaning, eventually less thoughts about it occur. So it happened, the bad things happen, but you don't feel necessarily humiliated or whatever. It's just what's happening at the time. So it's confusing, I know, and that's why I want to explore it more myself. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I find it a little confusing. That you wouldn't be scared, but then other things have happened, and when you look back on your life, things have happened that have not been pleasant, and you've got through them somehow. Do you think we find that inner strength?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, you do. You get through it. The thing is, I don't think you wouldn't not be scared. Like, scaredness would be there. All feelings will still be there. Everything's like the same, and yet it's different. All feelings will be there. You still could be scared, but there's not a you that will be scared. Like, your body will still maybe have the anxiety. And this is what I had experienced recently. Like, just had an argument with my husband where it didn't like attach to me. I had the compassion for him. I saw that he was just living out his thinking in the moment, and this is where this fits in with the 3 principles as well. He was living in the feeling of his thinking and reacting based on that. And I saw that clearly, and I had compassion for him, but yet I felt my body still feel the tenseness. So presumably there were still thoughts in the back of my mind, but those, I wasn't attaching to them, I guess. I mean, I'm just in retrospect dissecting maybe what happened. So it was really interesting, and I think that's that's sort of it. You're the self. Myself wasn't there. I don't know. My body is there. And it was fine. Like, it was fine that he could act however he acted, and it was fine, which is weird because in this society it's not like, and I second guessed to myself, the next day, thinking all the things we humans think, you can't let him get away with that kind of stuff. But I can, because it doesn't matter. I don't care what society thinks. I know what was going on, and it was okay. I mean, he was human, and I'm human, and we all are human, and we all act out our thinking at times, and it's only our personal self and listening to the societal rules and culture that says certain things are right and wrong. That's a piece of this too. There's no, there is no right or wrong, absolute right or wrong. In this world, there's relative right or wrong, but it's not like the energy itself that is life doesn't care if people kill other people, doesn't, like, and this is where it gets tricky to people. It doesn't care if it's not good or bad to do all these cultural things that we would label as good or bad. So it's weird, and it's deep, and it's not for everybody, because it's very much not in what society or our culture would like, let's say.
Yeah, Jill, there's a couple of points which I will read out in a minute, but yeah, be great if you could speak a little bit more to that, around for anyone wanting to live in this space of no self, because it does pose such a, it's in such opposition to what how you know the majority of people live. How would you navigate that? Because I can see that there'd be potential things like spiritual bypassing said, that perhaps you're a narcissist. You know, there's going to be lots of kind of labels thrown at somebody who is exploring and getting to that space of the no self. So I'd like you to speak a little bit to how you know, you could even kind of navigate that, or maybe it's a case of you just wouldn't care. I don't know, but I'll just pick up on what what's been said in the chat box. So Robert was saying that in the Buddhist philosophy, there's a saying which is no self, no problem. And I suspect that a lot of these kind of ancient and, you know, philosophies will be pointing people to this, the fact that it's the I, the me, where we get into trouble. This identification of a self is where we can kind of get ourselves in trouble. And then we also have a comment from Pankay, and that's probably not how you pronounce your name. By all means, pop on if you want to ask a question directly to Jill by unmuting yourself. But it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's called Pankaj. Yeah, I'm from India, so yeah. So it's very familiar concept here. I mean, we call it non-duality. You know, where we have a single energy and nothing else. And to me, also, it's an intellectual understanding. And you see, when there is no self, I mean, it cannot be a goal for someone, because there's no one left when there is no self. So you can't make a goal to achieve that state of being no self. It doesn't, even intellectually, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Because what is already is. It doesn't matter what we think about it, or what one or other person or one or many persons think about it.
Right.
What I have written about the pain, that, yeah, of course, we all, like, when we are self, we would like to avoid pain and maybe humiliation also, as somebody was saying. But I think I mean, for our practice, it is much easier to practice it when we are well and good, when we are feeling well. At that time, remember that there is no self. And I say remember because it's only intellectual, but you know, it's much more easier to relate at the time, because when you are in pain, I mean, it's a little more difficult. So you have to remember it more and more, as much time as possible, that really there's no self. And yes, I mean, your life gets better. I mean, when you are not, when you are a little away or detached, or whatever happens in life, it doesn't matter. You don't care too much. You just let it happen and just enjoy it. So to that extent, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think I agree with much of what you said. The thing about being a practice, though, I don't find that it can really be a practice, other than, I have to say, I have practiced, before I even heard of this stuff, when like little annoyances come about, where I find myself a little annoyed, you know, the food comes out cold, or, you know, from a restaurant, so little things like that. So I do sort of practice, or it's not even a practice. I notice that that I feel upset or a little whatever. And so I always kind of hoped that by, you know, noticing at those little times, that when the big things happen, that might help. So it is possible that has helped me, but there's no, you know, like you say, when the you know, something big's going on, there's nothing you can do. But that's what's kind of been cool for me, is naturally, it seems, myself has been dissolving at times, not every time, but it's been interesting to see that. The trying to do this, or, you know, trying to make there be no self, is, I totally agree with that. And that to me is what's sort of fun about this exploration. And I'm actually going to be doing this as my Creating the Impossible, Michael Neal, is doing a Creating the Impossible group, and I had no interest in even doing that because I thought it'd be something I'd have to do a lot of work at, and I'm not in a place where I feel like doing much work. But when I started exploring this, I'm like, well, this is totally impossible, because the very fact of trying to do it makes it even more impossible. So it just seemed like pretty hilarious to try and make that be my Creating the Impossible thing, since it's definitely impossible. But maybe it's not, I don't know. And Sara, to your point about spiritual bypass and stuff, yeah, I know. Like, I don't know, maybe that's all it is I'm doing. I had never heard that term until I think you and I were on some of the same Facebook threads where people were talking about it, and I didn't even know that was a thing. But yeah, I mean, people could say that's totally what I'm doing when I let someone get away with acting a certain way to me, or you know, or saying that it doesn't matter that people are getting killed, or and I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it's what's happening. So yeah, maybe it's the same thing. Maybe that's what spiritual bypassing is, seeing that this world is just a dream. And yeah, maybe it is a pathology too. I don't know. But I don't care. Like, you know, I mean, I guess I wouldn't go around talking about it to the average person on the street, or, you know, or people who have a problem. I'm not going to just say, oh, it's just a dream, go away. You know, I that would, you know, not be very compassionate. I could see myself almost doing that, but yeah, I think you have to talk to people at the level that they're at, and I'm sure people do say that, and I'm sure, I mean, I think Tony Parsons gets tons of crap thrown at him, but he's very, you know, if you really have no self, then that's okay. Like, people can say whatever they want to you. And I could see him, even, he gets a little annoyed still. I can see when he answers certain questions, he starts to get annoyed, but it's still not, it's just happening. Like, but it's not happening to him personally. So there is no him there, according to him. Did I answer all those? What else do we have?
Patty was just asking, what is spiritual bypassing? I don't know if you'll be able to remember, Jill, what I know that we both went and looked it up. I don't know if you can remember a bit of what was said.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but it seemed to me that it was people saying that you use spirituality as a way to just say nothing matters and to just disengage with the world. Is that how you sort of understood it?
Yeah, it seemed to be a term that was where, rather than what we're talking about, where we're letting go of our identity, it's kind of used as the suggestion is that person is wanting to disengage from life because they're wanting to avoid things, as opposed to what I'm hearing and what you're saying is you're actually wanting to experience more. You're not wanting to turn away from anything. You're wanting to see what else there is. So that's more of an expansion, an opening, rather than a kind of like, I'm not looking.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to put it, because in the past I was more of the kind that was so afraid that I did bury my head in the sand more, and that probably was more to that thing. Whereas I mean, I still I don't care about the news and stuff like that, but yeah, I'm more capable, I think, of listening to the news now, whatever, because I see it in a different way. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to, I think a lot of the people who have experienced a lot of really what's labeled as bad stuff in their life, some of them, it becomes so much of their identity that it's really, they can't even imagine like being able to drop that somehow, and seeing that it doesn't exist, because basically anything that's happened in the past just doesn't exist. There is no past, and it's I see that a lot. I get a lot of comments on some of my articles talking about, that nobody's a victim. And that's, for me, a lot of this is like, I don't want to be a victim. So I'm not, I refuse to, I'm not going to be a victim. I can't be a victim. You can't be a victim if nothing's happening. It's so hard to explain it. If there's no you there, you can't be a victim. And a victim is just how you feel. Like if you're going to be mad at everything that's going on in the world around you, you're a victim. And who wants to live your life as a victim? To me, that's like, feels like there's a little bit of a choice there. It's happening, all this stuff's happening. It can be happening and you can feel okay, or it can be happening and you can be mad or sad or whatever else about it. And I don't know.
I get the sense that for some people, if they were to take on this the meaning behind non-duality, if they were to see existence in that way, that almost they are doing a disservice to horrific things that they are seeing in the world. It's like being offensive. It's not humane. It's almost like, I think people see it as a turning their back on humanity, and they want to be a part of humanity. So I don't know if you know at this stage how what you would say to that. Listening, is letting go of the self saying, I no longer want to be human?
I think not. I think it's the opposite, in fact, in some ways. I think it allows you to still be human, and you'll still do whatever it is you do. And you're born with certain preferences and likes and dislikes and that kind of thing. And so it seems to me that just because there's no you or me or sense of that self, you're still going to go on with your life and do things. It's just that it's not you doing it. Like, life is happening, and this is the other paradox. Like, that's what's happening anyway, and we think we have free will. Now, according to Tony Parsons, we have no free will at all, and I'm really coming around to that myself, believing that when we think we're picking up the pen, and according to neuroscience, and my son is a neuroscientist, and he says this is true as well. It, like, the brain signals, like, it doesn't even, your decision to pick up the pen comes after you've already picked up the pen in milliseconds or something like that. So if that's the case, who's the one saying we should pick up the pen now? And so it's just happening. We're not making it happen. And if you can transfer that to everything, we're not doing anything. It's just happening. And it's this energy that's making it happen. And so when, again, people could say, well, then you're just going to give up and lay around on the couch and watch Netflix all day. Maybe you will, but it seems not. Like, people don't. They might do that for a little while and then they get bored. But you still do what you do because that's what you're doing anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. But I understand what you're saying. I mean, people definitely feel like they're turning their backs on humanity and blah, blah, blah. And maybe it's easier for me because I was not, that kind of person that was going into causes and things. But I guess, I had my own causes within my own industries and things. So I did have that. But it's all a game. I've always thought of life as a game in a way. So, like, you can go into your cause and, want to change the world, and that's fun. Look at it as a game, but don't let it, if it's going to beat you down, that's a dumb game. It doesn't sound like a fun game to me.
Yeah, I hear you. I kind of see the non-duality and the letting go of self actually as a wonderful evolution, if you will, for humanity. You know, it's almost like I see there being more peace and harmony with non-duality, you know, with everyone with everybody, there is with everybody knowing that, rather than this misunderstanding of separation, because surely it's in this misunderstanding of separation, and also that there can be loss and that there can be pain, that causes the issues that we have in humanity. So actually, if we let go of all of that and recognize that there was no separation, that there is this one energy, then surely that equals the kind of next evolution of what humanity will be. So that sounds pretty cool.
It makes sense to me, and that's the, you know, fits right in with what we understand with the three principles, and having, you know, seeing that everybody's just living out from their thinking, you know, living their reality is being projected from their thoughts in the moment. And how can you not be more compassionate when you know that, and you know, when and say, you know, I do the same thing, you know, it's on a different level maybe as someone, or it's we act it out in different ways, but if everybody understood just that we're all the same and we all do that, like, and we all are living in separate realities and neither one is right or wrong, even though it feels like it, then the world would have more compassion. Like, things just wouldn't escalate to the extent they do. And if somebody else who was acting out from their thinking in a negative way, or what society would deem negative, and other people were not reacting to that from their own thinking, but instead having that compassion, it would kill it right there. You know, I mean, it can't survive. That kind of behavior can't survive when it's not getting fed from, as like Eckhart Tolle would say, the pain bodies, you know, meeting each other. If one person, even just one person, isn't, you know, has transcended that to a certain extent, it changes the whole dynamic. And if you could see that on a larger scale happening.
So Jill, what do you see as the benefits of this exploration of letting go of me?
I don't know that there are benefits, you know, and I don't think anyone should go into the exploration looking for benefits. That's, you know, the beautiful paradox as well. Just like I in my blog post last week about just spirituality in general, we think, you know, we go into it looking for, it becomes another addiction, looking for a way to feel better in this world, and that's not what it's going to do. It's not going to make you feel better. It just is what it is, and it's just showing you the way the universe really works. So there are no benefits to it. Sometimes when you know this stuff, there's just these byproducts that happen, but I don't know. That's not, you know, if that's the reason, you'll end up with nothing. And, you know, and that's been the problem I'm seeing with people since I wrote my book about anxiety. People are thinking, oh, I'm going to read this book and my anxiety is going to be cured, and that's not how it works. And then they're mad at themselves. I'm still anxious. Why am I still anxious? I'm still anxious too, and I wrote a book on anxiety because that's not how it works. That's not why you do this. We're only learning about this stuff because it's interesting to learn about what possibly how things really work. I mean, I'd rather know the truth of how things are, and that's for me the exploration. Just and as a game, just for fun too.
Yeah, I knew that would be your answer. Brilliant. But I thought I'd better ask it in case there are people wondering that, because I hear it all the time that people think that if I learn this, or if I explore this, if I do this, then it will equal happiness, or it will equal a cure of this or whatever. And like you say, it's more about the fun, the play, the exploration itself. It is what it is. Kevin's just added something. Are you able to hop on, Kevin, or do you want me just to read it?
Read it, Sarah. Your voice
Okay.
is so much nicer than mine.
Okay, so Kevin is saying, don't think, just be, is what's coming to him. And the irony of all this is that there is a lot of thinking to reach. There's a lot of thinking in order to reach a level of not thinking. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like that. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I feel like there's probably benefits to this as well. And I'm sure that's why I do it. And I'm sure that there's an addictive quality to it for me as well. Too, because I'm human too. But I don't know that I don't think you can think this into play. I think the more you think, it's because it's not speaking to our thinking mind. In fact, our thinking mind doesn't want to hear this. It isn't going to get this, and is going to run from this and turn it into something that it's not as well. And maybe a lot of that is where people come up with the spiritual bypass stuff, because it's their self that doesn't want to hear it. It's because it's the death of the self, and the self is constantly trying to preserve itself, so it doesn't like this message. So but then there is the true us, which isn't an us or a thing it's just the energy or the oneness. That's who we really are, that already knows this too. So yeah, we can't think it into play, and the more we do, probably the less apt we are to see it. That's what's so funny about it.
Yeah, that rings true for me, because I know the more I used to think and try and figure things out about life and about myself, I still was in this state of searching and just lost, I guess, a kind of sense of still this sense of kind of lost, separation. Whereas what the inside out understanding, so the 3 principles, has given me is that I don't have to concern myself with any of that. I don't actually have to think. I can be. And to pick up on another point raised is that about having this, knowing that the self isn't real, is this dream, is this illusion, it actually does leave me, I suppose, what people would label as feeling calm, peaceful and happy. But so, I know we were sort of saying, are there benefits? But what I also am quite happy about, though, is I'm not bothered when I feel any other emotion, because it's like underneath, it's like there's now this constant sense of being home. I know it sounds really corny. I know. Apologies for being corny, but there is this sense that I'm always where I'm ever going to be. So anything that's happening on the surface to this, my personality, this idea of self, whatever is happening, isn't affecting what this this other sense that I have of what I am. So I don't mind experiencing anger. I don't mind experiencing all of humanity. I've actually fallen in love with humanity more from having this idea of there being, that my personality is made up, and that we're all that there is just this one energy that actually that
It
I
does.
don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, you are. There is a sense of peace about that, because the sense of peace is who we are underneath thoughts. If you could suck out all our thoughts, there's only peace left. And so with sucking out all our thoughts, basically is taking away our sense of self and the me. So theoretically, that's how we would be living, with the sense of peace. But shit could be happening all around us, and I think we'd still be feeling it. But and this is where I get tripped up. Is it would we just be dispassionately watching it from another place, or and is that good or bad? I don't know. Like, it's again, part of that is just societal norms. Like, you start to wonder, am I just crazy or whatever? Is it okay to just be hurting and sort of dispassionate about it, but you still feel everything, and but it's not you. It is nice to, I don't know, it is there's something nice. Again, it may be a pathology, I don't know, but that's okay.
Jill, do you want to tell us a little bit about this exploration you're going on, and you're inviting people to join you on it? Going to tell people a little bit about that, and we'll make sure. I know you've got some written stuff about it as well, so I'll make sure that the link to that is put with the video when we send it out.
Yeah, so I thought, as I said, I'm gonna do this exploration as my Creating the Impossible project, and then I thought, well, maybe I thought it would be helpful to me to have these kinds of discussions like we're having here. And helpful for others as well, who maybe are interested in the same topic, exploring it. So I thought I would facilitate a program. I'm going to start it in January, and I think it's 6 weeks. We'll have a weekly call like this, where we can have discussions about whatever it is. But I'll also, we'll have a Facebook group. I'll also be sending little clips of things that I may have listened to, or things to read that, that we can discuss, things like that during the week, and posting things. I don't know exactly. We'll see kind of how it unfolds, but I think having specific topics to talk about, or a specific video that we watched, that we can discuss, would be kind of cool. And I think, just speaking with other people about it and hearing other people's what they're seeing is just could be helpful. And maybe we'll all create the impossible and have no self at the end, but I wouldn't count on it. But so it's it's gonna be starts the week of January 8th. I'm just looking at my page. So the page is, I'll give you the link later. But on my website, you'll see it. If you just go to the homepage to whatdidyoudowithjill.com, it says upcoming programs in the side, and you can click on the link there. So there'll be 6 dates starting January 11th up till February 15th. They're Thursdays at 3 my time, Eastern time, 8 England time, 8 p.m. And the cost is $79, which you can pay for on the site there through PayPal. So yeah, it'd be fun. If anyone wants to join me on the exploration, that'll be cool. If I'm doing it myself, that's cool too.
And has anyone got any final questions for Jill before we finish? We've still got a little bit of time. If anyone wants to ask Jill anything about either that program, or just to reflections on what you've heard her talk about already on this webinar, just unmute yourself, bottom left-hand corner, if you've got a question or comment that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I've got one. Jill, in terms of the concept of oneness, I completely believe in that whole idea, but I don't feel that I'm at a level of consciousness where I can absorb myself into it. I'm aware of other people that can. Do you think it's something which we can all attain, or do you think you need to be particularly of a sort of have a higher level of consciousness to be able to really operate on that level?
It's my understanding that it shouldn't matter because we all know this underneath. You know, you have someone like Sid Banks who hadn't explored much or anything having to do with this stuff, who suddenly had his oneness experience. So I don't think so. I mean, I think there is something in us that knows it already. So we're speaking to that. And it could sound certainly confusing to somebody who just comes off the street and hasn't explored it at all. But, you know, I know even for myself, you know, 20 years ago when I first read, like, you know, Wayne Dyer's Power of Intention, I didn't quite understand it, but, you know, I knew the truth, some truth in it. And the same with like Eckhart Tolle or something. So, you know, I don't think it matters. I mean, certainly some people aren't going to be interested in it. It's just going to sound too far out for them. But I think, you know, the fact that anyone who's here on this call is certainly at a level where they could get something out of it, presumably. And I think anyone could, but some won't be interested. It definitely won't be for everyone. Definitely not.
So not for everybody, but everybody has the ability, you know, are able to access this because it's what we are. So
right, exactly. That's what I mean. Right. Yeah. I don't think everyone will be interested, but if anyone who is interested, you know, might get something out of it, or at least have a good time with us.
Yeah, exactly. Have a good time anyway, exploring it. Are there any other questions for Jill before Jill wraps up?
Nope. They're all quiet.
Stunned everybody into silence. So Jill, take a moment and just how do you want to round things off? Is there anything else that's...
Oh wait, Patty. Okay. Patty has something.
I just when Jill said, "What the hell?"
That's what you were thinking. I saw it in your face.
A thought came to my mind, like, you know, I don't have any questions because this is like, no, of course, duh, yes, of course, there's no me. So it just makes sense, and I love the topic. You know, I'm not sure if I'll be joining you in the Impossible program, Jill, but I'm not sure I'll be able to join you on this one. But I appreciate you talking about this because it's like, yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer. But that's cool. Just me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you both.
Good. Nice to hear that. I wasn't sure if we made any sense whatsoever, so that was good.
No, perfect sense.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing? Hi, Jill. Hi, Sarah. I just think it's just like what Patty was saying. I'm just so delighted that this subject is being brought, you know, into the more public, in as much as there's a small group of us here, but that you're doing this program and that we're actually speaking about this topic. And seemingly it's very brave, you know, whatever that means, because you don't see this exact area that's central to everything just being, let's all just say what we see and what we know or what we don't know, or and just like what Patty's saying there, I've always known that. I've always known since I was a child. I remember, and I won't go into a boring story, but I just knew something about wasn't that me didn't have I didn't understand what me was when I was quite young. And then, you know, you're sort of, I mentioned it to somebody and it was like you were shut down about that because it seemed and I'm from Ireland, and here I'm brought up as a Catholic, and anything like that would be your soul was in danger or something silly like that. So my mother was stop doing that, because I was kind of scaring myself by thinking certain thoughts that seemed very real and true to me, but they were a little scary because I didn't understand what me was, you know. So and then a long time went by when I just went, oh, that was just childish nonsense, you know. But no, I always had an understanding of what it is we're talking about here. And I think we all have this idea, because in the eyes of the world and the thinking brain, it is crazy. You know, the way the way the world works, with such separation, competition, division, fighting, anger. That's how the world runs currently. So for us to be saying, for Jill to be saying to us now, and us all to be listening, so, and agreeing and hearing this and loving it, is radical still, true or not, you know. And for me, it's just complete, it's real, it's true, and words are inadequate. No, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for having this, discussing it, Sarah and Jill. I very much appreciate that. You know, as Jill might know, I love Eckhart Tolle and Matt Kahn, and I was listening to the book A Thousand Names for Joy, which is Byron Katie, and she's talking exactly about what you were saying about the hand, you know, reaching for the kettle, and you know, I wonder, will a shower, the thought of having a shower comes to mind. Oh, that's a nice idea. I wonder, will that happen? She finishes her email and she's walking towards the shower. She's getting into the shower cubicle. You know, she's like the sense of being breathed, of being lived, of being it not being her. So I find it fascinating and absolutely true, and massively hopeful for mankind that this is more and more being talked about and explored. So that's really my tuppence halfpenny worth. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just to speak 1 second about what you said, you know, I think a lot of times people have that feeling when they're little, and then, you know, it gets shut down, and then they're seeking. It leads to the seeking later, because they feel this sense of something wrong, you know, that things aren't right, that they're not supposed to be separate, and so that's what leads to all these, a lot of people seeking. For me, that wasn't really my thing. I was so just into my own head that I just thought I was the world revolved around me. So I never really was seeking anything except for external things to feel better, you know, my addictions and things. But that's definitely a lot of people.
And
all right.
Also, well, I was just, sorry, Jill, I was just going to say that Helen has tapped onto something else, which is very interesting. And obviously, we're finishing now, but we might maybe you'll talk about this in your exploration. But as adults, when we start talking about this type of thing, it can be viewed as that some sort of mental ill health. You know, people can kind of start to really see things and are trying to articulate it, but aren't able to, you know, you're trying to explain something that's unexplainable, and then actually what people around them see is that they're not well and that they need to be sectioned. And I know saying this now at the end of the call is, you know, we'd have to do another webinar. But of course, within the Inside Out, understanding the 3 principles, we recognize that people have innate mental health always, you know. It's but that's another sort of area to explore with this, is that when you do start to see more and start letting go of the self, people around you potentially are going to think that you're absolutely insane.
Yeah, and there's probably a lot of people in the, you know, institutions or whatever they call them these days who just were seeing this stuff, you know, and they're like, no, I'm not crazy. Yeah, I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell. Matchbox 20, Rob Thomas.
Well, Patty's just said, I'm not ill. I'm just not myself.
Yeah, I saw that. That's what made me think of.
Sorry, Jill. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, final words, and then we'll send everybody up on their way for today.
Yeah, I get nothing more to say other than just head over to whatdidyoudowithjill.com, and if you're interested in exploring the illusion of me with me, or just go over there anyway and sign up for my newsletter. That's it. Hope to see some of you on that little program. And thank you, Sara, for facilitating this. This is awesome. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Sara, sorry, you're on mute. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying. I've just unmuted everybody so that we can just say bye. But yes, thank you, Jill, so much, and thank you everybody for being here. There will be we're recording it, so I'll make sure that the recording gets put up. I'm now off to have my my hair appointment, so it will be later on when I put the recording up. But I will certainly do that. So thank you all.
I'm gonna put it on the program page as well, if that's okay, so that people interested can see this.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jill. Of course you can. Yeah, anyone can will be able to share it with whoever. It'll be on YouTube, so people can share it widely. So again, thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Lovely to meet you.
Bye.
See you online. See you on Facebook.
Yep.
God bless. How do I turn this off?